what it takes to drop 1 kilo of body fat. Look, in today's training, what I want to essentially do is extend your time horizons. When we start looking at days instead of weeks or months, we look at the volatility and all the things that we did wrong. When we look at the long-term plan and are we directionally right, we can keep a cool, calm head and we know that we're on the right plan. Bringing awareness to dropping 1 kilo, 5 kilos, 10 or 50, my focus here is trying to make sure that you're looking at the right stuff, because so many people that we work with have really high expectations of themselves. They're in a position where that's got them to certain places in work and just life in general, where they've had certain successes by reinforcing this all or nothing mentality. When it comes to health, it shoots you in the foot and it creates more stress than is required. So what I want to focus on with this 1 kilo of fat analogy is the ability to address it needs to be done over consecutive days, weeks, and months, not just do it perfect today and it sorts the problem. And I think if we look at the obvious example, which is if I go to the gym today, I'm not going to have six-pack abs because I did a 3-hour workout. I'm going to have to show up consecutively for a period of time until I get the result. And there's so many factors that play into that, but expecting for it to be a perfect progression where everything goes right is just unrealistic and becomes a place where we create so much unnecessary stress. And ironically, that physical or mental stress becomes one of the limiting factors from us ever being able to shed the body fat that's limited us from moving forward. So where I want to start is just the simple rule that to drop 1 kilo of body fat, we need to burn 7,700 calories. And this is not going to be a calorie discussion, but understanding that shows you that that doesn't happen in one day. So that 1 to 3 kilo fluctuation in your weight week to week is just life, right? There's a slight retention or reduction of fluid that you hold on to. There's a whole cascade of other things that are going on, and realizing that just having one meal and you noticing that the following day you've put 2 kilos on is not body fat, right? It's just your body adjusting to all of the different things going on in your life because it's constantly sensing what's happening in the outside world and how you're reacting to it. So my awareness here is I want to, I guess, apply this back to like a monthly budget. So if you were to get paid monthly and you went out and you splurged and spent 10%, 15% of your budget on a day shopping, right? Now, unless you bought a Mercedes on that day, you probably still got some wiggle room that if you tighten up on a couple of days or you just don't get too silly with the rest of the month, you can stay within that budget and still hit your savings goal for that particular month. It's the same with fat loss and being able to look at this space where, provided I am eating well throughout the week, I've created enough of a deficit in that energy budget for the week, I'm in a spot where I'm still able to drop body fat. Now, if I'm doing really well, my training's in a good spot, I'm sleeping well, doing all these things to look after my body, if I go out and have a burger a couple times a month, I can still hit my targets. It doesn't mean that I'm completely off track. Where it goes off track, similar to the Mercedes example, it's not just a little splurge, it's a massive one. That might be the 2 boxes of beer, a pizza, pie, all of this stuff comes through. Well, that's a lot harder to catch up on, right? So what I'm bringing this to is, one, unless you're really pushed for it, you don't stuff up your entire allowance for the week. But 2, it also becomes more about conscious choice. And what I want to focus on here is, look, I go out of my way to block out a date night with my wife every single week. There'll be certain occasions, functions, birthdays, things that come into my month. And I don't let that throw me off track because I'm conscious of when those meals are, that I'm going to probably eat a little bit differently, a little bit more, whatever it might be. So that just because I have a craving on a Wednesday to have a pie doesn't mean I go out and get one, right? I know that I've got a dinner on Saturday to do something different, and I surf the urge and I wait till that occasion. I think where most people run into this problem is they focus on the short term being, I've stuffed up today, so I might as well keep going. And it becomes this initial unconscious choice, i.e. I had a Moro bar at the supermarket, and then you cascade that going on because you've already stuffed it up. But what you're doing is just making it harder for you to stay on track over the week or the month. When you start with that in mind, you realize that it's just a bump in the road and you can easily adjust course to stay on track with those conscious intent choices. And this is really where that emotional awareness of when and why you eat, or just emotional regulation of not giving into those cravings just because you had a bad day, you're tired, or you're at the petrol station, gives you a lot more control of being directionally right but not perfect. And I think when you give yourself that space, not just learn that and hear it from me now, but truly embed that over weeks and months, you'll start to see how often this can come up. And for me, I've done 7 or 8 different international trips over the last year. There's been a lot of stuff that gave me a little slip off track, if you were going to call it that. For me, I just kind of call it life. And it allowed me to tighten up, make adjustments, alterations to still be within that budget for the month, right? And for the most part, I feel very much still on track, both with fitness, health goals, with fat loss goals, whatever. And it's because I allowed myself to live life and realize that the reason I'm trying to be healthy is to get more out of life, not less. And when I approach that long-term mindset in the same way that I try to in business to health, I find it very helpful. It reduces stress and allows me to realize that I'm not in control of everything, but I am in control of the few things that actually matter, which is how I approach the next thing. And being able to understand the conscious nature of food choices, what I mean by that is when I go to a conference, I'm not forced to eat the scones, and other spots where I choose to have the scone and I could make some tweaks to that week, right? And it just gives me back control of what that looks like, staying on track and not feeling like the scenarios that I'm put in are stressful and forcing me to do something I don't want to do. All right. So hopefully that's a message that you might need to hear. We've got a lot of clients that are big travelers, big entertainers, just busy people. And I think being able to be in a spot where you're able to have a nice reminder, right? There's the whole point of these is to feel like you're on the right track with focusing on things you can control and making sure you're looking at longer time horizons, which have certainly served me well and many of our clients. So hope that was helpful. Hope to see you on the next one, guys. And until next time, try focus on what you can control. Stay conscious with those food choices.